In Spanish town, St. Catherine, there's no mansion built to impress, only space shaped by instinct, art, and freedom. Grace Jones was never a Hollywood pop diva, never molded by American celebrity rules. She built a life that moves on its own terms, where music, image, and identity answer to no one. This is not a story about fame. It's about fearlessness, creation, and living without permission. To understand how that began, we go back to the roots. Born on May 19, 1948, in Spanish Town, Jamaica, Grace Jones didn't grow up dreaming of fame. Her earliest memories weren't of music or fashion, but of rules, strict ones. She was the third of 7 children, raised first by her grandmother after her parents moved to the United States. When her grandmother remarried, the household changed overnight. Discipline became fear. Punishment became routine. That environment didn't break Grace, but it taught her one thing early: obedience was never going to be her language. When the family finally reunited in Salina, New York, near Syracuse, the structure remained just as rigid. Her father, Robert Jones, ran an apostolic church where authority was absolute and self-expression was discouraged. Grace grew up surrounded by sermons about control, silence, and submission. Inside, she was already resisting. College gave her a crack in the wall. At Onondaga Community College, she began doing small things that felt revolutionary, wearing makeup, drinking, stepping into gay clubs. These weren't acts of rebellion for attention. They were acts of survival. She needed air. She needed space. Eventually, she left entirely, moving to Philadelphia and living among hippie communities, absorbing counterculture, art, sexuality, and freedom without apology. At 18, Grace returned to New York with nothing polished, just presence. She signed with Wilhelmina Models, but America didn't quite know what to do with her. Paris did. 2 years later, she crossed the Atlantic and exploded into the fashion world. Designers like Kenzo and Yves Saint Laurent didn't ask her to soften. Photographers like Helmut Newton and Guy Bourdin didn't want her to smile. Her angular face, shaved hair, and confrontational gaze turned modeling into performance art. Music came next, not as a career move, but as another form of control. In the late 1970s, she signed with Island Records, a label known for embracing outsiders. Her debut album, Portfolio, arrived in 1977, produced by disco pioneer Tom Moulton. The standout track was a 7-minute reworking of La Vie en Rose. Grace didn't reinterpret the song. She reclaimed it. Vulnerability became power. Romance became command. After Fame and Muse, she walked away from disco before it could define her. Reinvention was instinctive. Warm Leatherette, 1980, introduced a colder, sharper sound built on minimalism and precision, driven by Jamaican legends Sly and Robbie. Then came nightclubbing in 1981, a cultural landmark. Part reggae, part funk, part new wave, it became her highest charting album in the US and a blueprint for artists who refused categories. Albums like Living My Life and Slave to the Rhythm followed, each one more conceptual than the last. Grace Jones wasn't chasing radio play. She was constructing identity. Even when albums slowed after the late 1980s, she never disappeared. Hurricane in 2008 proved her voice still carried authority. Collaborations followed, from Brigitte Fontaine to Gorillaz, from global festivals to film soundtracks, always selective, always deliberate. When Jamaica awarded her the Order of Jamaica in 2018, it wasn't for fitting in, it was for standing apart. And when the stage lights dim, Grace Jones doesn't retreat to a celebrity bubble. She returns to a place that reflects everything she fought for: freedom, space, and self-definition. House in Spanish Town, St. Catherine. In Spanish Town, St. Catherine, far from the choreography of fashion weeks and the glare of concert stages, Grace Jones owns a home that feels less like a statement and more like an exhale. Valued at approximately $2.1 million, the property isn't built to dominate its surroundings. It listens to them. The villa features 6 bedrooms and 7 bathrooms, but numbers don't capture the feeling of space. Rooms are arranged to breathe, not impress. Natural light moves freely through the home, softened by wide openings and shaded by overhanging roofs. The architecture blends classic Caribbean elements with modern restraint. Nothing ornate, nothing excessive. Every line feels purposeful. Wrap-around verandas define the rhythm of the house. From nearly every angle, there's a place to pause. Morning coffee facing the valley, late afternoons watching shadows stretch across the water. These verandas aren't decorative. They're functional sanctuaries, designed for silence, thought, and the kind of stillness that only comes when there's nothing left to prove. A picturesque lake sits within the property, amplifying the sense of retreat. Its presence slows time. Reflections ripple instead of flashing. Birds replace engines. This isn't a backdrop for entertaining crowds. It's a space for grounding. For Grace Jones, whose career was built on confrontation and control, this home offers the opposite: surrender to nature, not dominance over it. Inside, modern comforts are present but discreet. The luxury here isn't marble or chandeliers, it's privacy, space, the ability to disappear. The house carries history without nostalgia, elegance without polish. It feels lived in, not staged. A place where art doesn't hang for validation, and silence isn't something to escape. For an artist who spent decades being watched, photographed, and interpreted, this home offers something radical: invisibility on her own terms. Here, she isn't performing. She's simply being. But Grace Jones has never belonged to just one place. When she leaves the stillness of Jamaica, her life shifts again into a sharper urban rhythm, thousands of miles away. London apartment. Until February 2012, she lived in a striking apartment at Chelsea Crescent, inside the prestigious Chelsea Harbour complex. Valued at roughly £1.5 million at the time, the residence reflected the other side of her life: urban, sharp-edged, and unapologetically modern. The apartment was positioned high above the city, a penthouse with expansive views of the Thames and London's shifting skyline. Inside, space unfolded deliberately. 2 large living rooms opened through French windows onto a wide terrace overlooking the river, blurring the line between interior and exterior. It was a place designed for ideas to move: daylight pouring in, city noise humming below, the river reminding you that everything keeps flowing. The master bedroom had its own private terrace, reinforcing the sense of separation and control. Underground parking, 7-day concierge service, and discreet access ensured privacy, luxury without spectacle. This wasn't a celebrity crash pad. It was a working space, a city base where art, performance, and preparation intersected. Then came the dispute. The property owner later sued, alleging more than £10,000 in damage, claims of charred cutlery, cigarette smoke residue, and £5,600 in unpaid rent. Jones's representatives firmly denied the accusations, stating the apartment had been left in good condition. The case briefly made headlines, but it felt almost beside the point. What mattered wasn't the lawsuit or the gossip, but the contrast. One woman, 2 worlds. Silence in the hills of St. Catherine, edge and energy along the Thames. Together, they formed the geography of a life lived without compromise. And sustaining that life, across continents, decades, and disciplines, required more than attitude. It required income built on art, endurance, and control. Income and net worth. With a career built on refusal rather than conformity, Grace Jones has never relied on volume to generate wealth. Her estimated net worth is around $8 million, a figure not generated by building a mass-market brand, but by selective control over her art, image, and time. Music royalties remain the backbone. Jones's Island Records era, from Portfolio through Slave to The Rhythm, continues to pay decades later. Songs like Pull Up to the Bumper, La Vie en Rose, and Slave to the Rhythm are staples in fashion campaigns, films, and curated playlists. As streaming and licensing expanded globally, these tracks created a steady, long-tail income stream. At her peak in the modern era, annual royalties were reported to exceed $500,000, proving that cultural relevance compounds over time. Live performance is where her earnings become surgical. Jones doesn't tour relentlessly, she chooses moments. Festival headlining slots and private events, Glastonbury-level stages or high-profile invitations, command fees estimated between $250,000 and $400,000 per show. These performances are not concerts so much as total artworks, and promoters pay for the spectacle, the mythology, and the certainty that no one else can replicate it. Fashion never left her balance sheet either. Early work with Yves Saint Laurent, Kenzo, and Issey Miyake, plus iconic covers for Vogue and Elle, established her value long before influencer culture. Later, she avoided mass endorsements to protect the brand, opting instead for niche luxury editorials and collaborations that paid well without diluting identity. Partnerships and creative projects with Jean-Paul Goude blurred the line between advertising and art, often lucrative precisely because they refused to feel commercial. Grace Jones didn't monetize herself by saying yes. She built wealth by knowing when to say no. And that same philosophy, intentional, quiet, and uncompromising, extends beyond income into how and where she chooses to give back. Philanthropy. For Grace Jones, giving back has never been about visibility. There are no foundations built around her name, no annual press cycles announcing donations. One of her most visible contributions came in July 2021, when she performed at the Icon Gala in London in support of NHS Charities Together. The event raised funds for NHS staff, patients, and volunteers at a time when the healthcare system was under extraordinary strain. Jones didn't appear as a spokesperson or celebrity guest. She appeared as an artist, using performance as contribution. That same night, the Icon Gala supported Well Child, a charity dedicated to helping seriously ill children and their families navigate long-term care. Again, Jones's involvement was direct and purposeful. She chose events where presence mattered more than promotion, where the work spoke louder than the guest list. Her commitment to social causes stretches back further. In March 2010, Jones performed at the Elton John AIDS Foundation's 18th Annual Academy Awards viewing party. The event raised an estimated $3.7 million for HIV prevention programs and efforts to combat stigma and discrimination surrounding HIV/AIDS. For an artist whose career has long challenged norms around identity, sexuality, and freedom, this alignment was neither accidental nor symbolic. It was personal. In a world where charity is often marketed, Grace Jones treats it as something closer to duty, quiet, focused, and unadvertised. She gives without turning generosity into another performance. And just as she protects the meaning of giving, she protects the boundaries of her own life, choosing what the world gets to see and what it never will. Personal life. For Grace Jones, personal life has never followed a script and never asked for approval. Through her long, creative, and romantic relationship with visual artist Jean-Paul Goude, Jones became a mother. Their son, Paulo, was born on November 12, 1979. Motherhood didn't soften her edge or slow her momentum. It expanded her world. Today, Jones is also a grandmother, a role she keeps largely out of public view, protected, private, and deliberately normal. In 1996, Jones married Attila Altanbay, a Turkish Muslim man. The marriage was brief, but it remains the only one she has ever acknowledged. In her memoir, I'll Never Write My Memoirs, she dismissed years of rumors, stating plainly that Altanbay was the only boyfriend she ever married. The clarity was typical, no spin, no apology. Her romantic life has often overlapped with her work. She spent 4 years with Dolph Lundgren, initially her bodyguard, later her partner, and even helped him land his breakout role as a KGB officer in A View to a Kill. In the 1990s, she was linked to Danish actor and stuntman Sven Ole Thorsen, and in 2007, she spoke openly about her personal life without adopting labels. Jones has long rejected definitions of gender and sexuality imposed from the outside. Her androgynous image wasn't a costume. It was a statement. "I do what I want, when I want," she once said, choosing self-determination over categories. That stance made her a global gay icon, a status she embraced with warmth rather than marketing. "Gays are my best audience," she acknowledged, recognizing connection without ownership. Her fearlessness also produced moments that became cultural flashpoints. In 1980, during a live appearance on The Russell Harty Show, Jones slapped the host after feeling dismissed on air. The incident, often labeled diva behavior, was later explained by Jones as a response to disrespect, compounded by exhaustion and illness. The clip remains widely circulated, not because it shocked, but because it captured her refusal to shrink. Other controversies followed. The intense debate around Jean-Paul Goude's imagery of her body in the 1980s, criticized by some as fetishizing. A reported ban from Walt Disney World after an on-stage incident that clashed with corporate norms. Each moment reinforced the same truth. Grace Jones never adjusted herself to fit institutions. Institutions adjusted to her, or didn't. Grace Jones reminds us that a life lived honestly doesn't need permission, approval, or explanation. If this story made you see art, freedom, or legacy a little differently, let us know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who appreciates fearless individuality. And in the comments, tell us this: would you dare to live life entirely on your own terms?